Money FM 89.3, the best of Saturday mornings. Wide World on Money FM 3.
Joining us in studio, Audrey Yeo, president of the Art Galleries Association of Singapore, and doing many, many things in addition to her own Yeo Workshop. Good morning to you. Welcome to the show. How you doing?
Good, thank you. Thank you for inviting me on the show.
Pleasure. Great to have you with us. Audrey, tell us first a little bit about Yeo Workshop. What do you do within the art space?
We're a contemporary art gallery based in Gillman Barracks. We've been there now for 12 years. We've published recently a book on a pioneer generation artist who was the father of nude and life drawing in Singapore. So he started at the Lascaux School of the Arts.
Oh, that's interesting.
And he brought that discipline to Singapore. Well, he's a Singaporean. He just went to school abroad in Australia, saw that that's how Westerners sort of learn how to paint and draw. Yeah. And so he thought that was very important for education here. Of course, in the 1990s, that was sort of taboo. So he's only being recognized now, which is 10 years after his death.
What's his name?
His name is Sola Malay Namasivayam.
Right.
And so you'll see a bit more. I think the National Gallery is going to include his work in a group show coming up in July in their new National Artists Rehang for Singaporean artists. And you'll see a bit more about him. But galleries like us sort of publish, we did his whole monograph. We conserved his works. We exhibited his works. We researched, listened to all his archives and sort of brought that to the public.
Did he have any kind of notoriety or fame before he passed away a decade ago? Like he wasn't living in obscurity, was he?
No, but I think it's extremely difficult for artists in Singapore. And of course, if you're, talking about a subject like the nude, which for Western, kind of Western art
schools and things.
It's normal.
It's very common.
It's common. That's how you do your drawing. But in a lot of Asian, sort of societies, and he's also part of the Tamilian community in Singapore, which apparently is a bit more conservative. So, bringing that kind of Western style was definitely quite a hoo-ha.
And you said you've produced a book of his work, is that correct? Is that available to the public?
It is. It's available at Kinokuniya, and we also donated a whole lot to the libraries in Singapore. So we do sort of work like that. I mean, we're also a contemporary art gallery. So currently in the gallery, we have a 60 years old female senior artist from Kelantan. So it's very rare to have women artists actually from that region, just because it's a bit more conservative. She makes amazing oil paintings of her friends, of still life, portraits, which again, it's not very common in sort of Islamic cultures. But she, so this is her first solo exhibition outside of Malaysia in 40 years.
Wow.
So we sort of published that kind of, I would like to consider quite important shows. Yeah. And, actually there are 10 galleries in Gillman Barracks, and all of us do really, I think the galleries there are fantastic. I think everybody's sort of hitting, very heavily in the field in Singapore.
Yeah, Gillman Barracks is kind of one of those places that is perennially talked about for redevelopment, and I believe there are some plans underway to do that. How will that impact you? Do you have finality on what that's going to look like for you and the other galleries there?
Well, apparently, a minister, I won't say who because it's not finalized, said that they're really they recognize us as a, sort of important art space. Yeah. And I think we did protest a little bit, as much as one can protest in Singapore, about the redevelopment because they are historic heritage spaces. Gillman Barracks is actually where the Japanese, the British surrendered to the Japanese. So it has a very historic, kind of history,
and
it's a beautiful space. It's green. You still see a lot of nature. I think it's such a luxury to have galleries on the ground floor by itself. We're very privileged to be there, honestly. Yeah. And I think the visitors they love it. The few people who come. And ironically, it can be a bit quiet, but ironically, that is the luxury of it. In a busy city, to be able to spend time looking at art. So I think people are discussing it quite heavily. It's quite disheartening that people always talk about redevelopment and talk about market, but they never actually talk about the wonderful content and the art that happens in those spaces. And I think it's just because people feel art is a very difficult to access kind of subject matter. So a lot of journalists stay away from that kind of topic, and they rather talk about things like that. But I know that, I have trust in our government that they have a plan for us. So we have till at least six more years, 2030 or so, to sort of see what happens with that.
Yeah. It's a wonderful space, and I'm eager to know more about what you actually do, the Art Galleries Association of Singapore. How long has it been going first? Because I have to be honest, this is the first time I'm hearing about it. So how long has it been going, and what do you do day to day?
Well, the Art Galleries Association has been going for 30 years.
That's my ignorance right there.
Where you been, Neil?
Yeah, where have I been? Yeah.
And we've had, ups and downs in the history of it. It basically was formed to represent the interests of art business in Singapore. We currently have about 60 members in the association, comprising mostly of art galleries, but there are also affiliates who are art businesses. So the whole ecosystem comprises not just of us. There's a whole sort of job market around the art world, including our logistics partners, conservators, framers, other kind of art shops that sell art supplies, etc. So there's a whole ecosystem of art businesses, and I would say the driving force of it is really artists and galleries. So we represent those interests to make sure that there's a healthy ecosystem so that we can continue keeping this market alive, jobs alive. And so that's kind of and so on the one side, we interface with, say, the public. We have a Singapore Art Gallery Month that's coming up in August, where we have a map. We distribute it to all the hotels. We distribute it to all our partners, corporates. We've worked with wonderful sponsors. This year we have OUE as a partner, OUE REIT as a partner, Freshfields, corporate, the law firm.
So there's some big sponsorship behind this.
Well, I wouldn't say it's big sponsorship, but it's little partners, people who already kind of know us and want to support. We could definitely do more. But on the other hand, we also interface with the government to make sure that they still know we're alive. And on the other side, we try to make sure the standards of business within the galleries itself are consistent and moral,
high level, and
exactly.
So you're at that high level. Do you work with artists individually?
Yes.
Okay. How does that work?
So we all the galleries have so galleries are like restaurants. I love to give this analogy because my late mother was a Chinese painter, and she'd always bring around some master, and I'd be like, I have no idea who this shifu is. And I would say, you could bring me the most famous Chinese painter and I wouldn't have the clients for them because I do contemporary art. So it's like if you go to a dim sum restaurant, you can't expect them to cook paella. So galleries are the same way. We all have a thing that we cook. So we do contemporary art. A lot of Gillman Barracks deals with contemporary art, which means living artists. I think there is some merit to supporting living artists. If you go to the Bras Basah area, a lot of them support really wonderful Chinese artists, Singapore watercolorists, just to generalize. But there are different galleries that do different things. Sorry, I forgot your question.
How you work with artists individually.
Yes.
So it sounds like commission works sometimes?
Yes, we do. So we each have artists according to our mission and our style that we support. Of course, there's only limited time. I think the statistic is 500 artists in the world for every one gallery.
Is that right?
Yes. And there are just not enough of us. And I think in our gallery, we have a staff count. We're a small gallery. We have a staff count of 4. Some of the bigger galleries maybe have a staff count up to 15 to 20 in Singapore. And obviously your big mega galleries around the world maybe are 200, 600 employees. But those are megas in the US, in London.
That's huge.
But in Singapore, we're very small. Still, the market's still developing. So there's only so much time in the day. So for myself, I represent about 10 artists. 10 to 15. And honestly, I think I wish I had more time to give. It's like children. The more you have, the more you have to support. So sometimes I wish we could give more time to all the other artists. Some artists really focus and they really concentrate on a few and, to make those few a success. So it's challenged with the time, with costs in Singapore and things like that to represent a lot of artists.
We're talking with Audrey Yeo, the president of the Art Galleries Association of Singapore, also the founder of Yeo Workshop. The Gillman Barracks galleries that you have, are they focused on international artists, on Singaporean artists? What's that mix look like? First question. And then following on from that, what is the local art scene? Where are we at with the local art scene right now? What's the quality like, the variety and styles, that sort of thing?
I would say Gillman Barracks are, in general, I mean, they call us, if you come to build Gillman Barracks, you'll see on the signboards that it says the premier art destination or something like that. Mm-hmm. So we're supposedly the premier art galleries, and I put ourselves in quote unquote, so it was established about 12 years ago by EDB actually, and then it was kind of managed, the whole district was managed.
I remember they were making that into the art hub.
Yes.
When we were still in our hub phase here.
Yeah, so there was a very selective inviting of galleries, and you had to fulfill programs. So we have to turn shows every 4 to 6 weeks. You have to have talks, programs. So there was quite a criteria for being part of that district. Yeah. Opening hours, you have to fulfill certain for the public. So even though we're all private organizations, we have the obligation to open for the public for free. So that was some of the requirements. And as a result, I think you have some quite high quality galleries in the district. And I don't just say in Singapore, I say internationally as well. So some of the galleries there already take part in quite high-end art fairs such as Art Basel, Frieze. Fairs like that are sort of reserved for the higher, I would say, good quality. They're very selective about the quality of the galleries that go in. Mm-hmm. So I say most of the galleries in Gillman Barracks take part in those fairs.
So the quality is not in dispute?
No. And in fact, I think because we're in close proximity to each other, we're friends, but we're also competitors.
Sure.
And we also buy from each other, where we work with each other. So I would say we're always keeping it quite real and tight within us. Yeah. However, I think for example, for myself, I have a lot of international collectors who come, straight from the airport to our gallery. However, in Singapore, maybe people don't know that I represent one of the most exciting, up-and-coming Southeast Asian Indonesian female artists called Citra Sasmita right now. But a lot of the locals don't know it, but international collectors know that.
Interesting.
Yes, so I would say we have some really good galleries in Singapore. We really do. And I think part of it is also it's a very easy port for business. Our logistics are really efficient.
Sure. Yeah. How about the Singaporean artists, though? Are we seeing that rise as you would have thought it would?
Yeah, I would say, the Gillman Galleries, okay, so there are two of us that are locally owned. It's myself, Yeo Workshop, and there's Fost Gallery. Both of us, I think we try our best. I think we're local. We feel an obligation to contribute to culture. So there's a lot that we do, outside of the commerce of art to sort of build that seed up. However, with the other galleries, so there are another 8 galleries who are in Gillman Barracks. I think when they came to Singapore, their access was to Singaporean artists. So I'd say galleries like Ota Fine Art have a very nice program, even though they represent Yayoi Kusama, the polka dot artist out of Singapore, by the way. They also have a very nice program for Singaporean artists. So you have these international galleries that are coming here and sort of supporting and showing, and also bringing them back to Japan, to wherever else, Australia, with Sundaram Tagore, he has galleries in New York, and bringing them also to America to show. So this kind of cross-cultural dialogue is quite vibrant, I say, within the gallery. Yeah. So you have Singaporean artists who are very good in their own right and thriving in this home market. The government has really supported art, and that's part of their Renaissance plan as being part of a developed city. So they've put some money into supporting artists, and I think you can see these fruits paying off right now. We just came back from Switzerland, and we represented a Singaporean artist called Aki Hassan in a solo booth. And so many people who were walking around said, Singapore, we've never seen Singapore here before. And I sort of felt, I didn't say it, but we've arrived. We've really arrived. We have Singaporean artists in this international arena.
That's wonderful. That's the artistic side. What about the financial side? Corporate investment, corporate involvement. What's that looking like in Singapore?
Well, corporate collections,
exactly.
Huge, right?
I think a lot of international corporate corporations are really looking to buy more Singaporean artists. For them, from what I've observed, it's a way for them to make friends. So, I think I recently went to an opening of a new office for a corporation who opened a collection of majority Singaporean artists. And they invited the Minister of Arts. And he said yes. And, he knew all the artists. And I think it was really a beautiful opening. And also for the employees, right? It's really nice. There's another smaller firm called Nijvest, which is very nice. And it's a small, I think it's a small, medium-sized company owned by Dutch and American owners. But they've collected only Singaporean artists. And they do this very fun thing where they invite the artists to come in. Artist signs on the wall next to their work. And they have their staff sort of come in and talk to the artists. And I think it's a way of just building dialogue and connections. If I had artworks from your country, it'd be a really fun thing for us to connect on what I know about you and me. And it's just a way of making friends, I guess.
Some of these offices, I was in Standard Charter a while back, and in their public gathering spaces, they have some amazing pieces of art.
Correct. All across Singapore.
Well,
you go to the big corporate waiting areas, they'll have huge canvases on their walls.
Right.
I think it's wonderful. And that's the sort of thing you're involved with?
Yes, it's definitely, I'd say besides being a status symbol, more than that, I think, I'm really tired of people thinking art is a luxury good. It's actually a cultural good. I think, whenever, we've actually this year sort of tried to shy away a little bit from sponsors in the luxury segment. I work with Cartier. I love Cartier. I think they have amazing, women's initiatives. And I think that's a wonderful, wonderful brand. But I think sort of associating art with luxury sometimes, this isn't a very controversial view, is sometimes not helpful because it's so much more than that. It's a cultural good. A piece of art can be $80. It can be $300. It's a poster. Young artists in Singapore, you can buy amazing artworks for under $2,000. Original. You don't even have to buy a print, which is an edition. So I think with a lot of corporations, besides that, of course, I think they have to show their clients that they're somewhat sophisticated, but it's also really interesting talking points. I know a lot of banks love that. A lot of their clients want to see art. They want to have more of a conversation than just money, I suppose.
Love that.
Yeah.
Affordable, accessible art. Could not agree more with that.
Yeah. Give us a trend line. What are you seeing in our last question? We have to go. But any trends in local art or trends in investing in local art showing up for you?
You definitely see. I think Singaporeans are starting to care about our cultural climate. So you have a lot more Singaporeans coming in saying, I want to buy Singaporean artists. Show me what you have. And, sort of following the artists rather than what they like from just the visual side, so following the brand of the artist. Oh, this is a very sweet Singaporean artist. I like to support what they make. There are some of us that think it's better to buy a bad work from a real artist than a really good object from somebody who might not continue, so it's also following and seeing, okay, if I give $300 to this little artist, they'll be able to continue their practice. I think you're seeing this kind of trend in collectors who are more sort of supporting and loving to follow the artist rather than, oh, that looks nice above my couch, or something more meaningful. And I think ultimately it depends on individuals to drive the scene forward. It really comes down to the person. So even in these corporations, it was really driven by either the CEO or the partner or whoever it is who loves art.
Right.
And with the ministers, it comes down to who's already an art lover so a trend I do see is I see a lot more supporters. I see a lot more people who work in corporations who have a hobby interest in art. I see a lot more people on the ground. I see galleries doing really interesting sort of shows. There's a wonderful gallery in Arab Street called Kuturi Gallery. He shows a whole bunch of young Singaporean painters, and you can buy them for, and sorry, Kevin, I didn't mean to out your prices, but you can buy them for under $7,000, they're really quite reasonable, and they're gorgeous paintings. Gillman Barracks, you can find all price points. You can get $1 million artworks in Gillman Barracks. You can get $2,000 artworks in Gillman Barracks. And you see, I think all the gallerists are very helpful. They're very enthusiastic. They're contributing a lot outside of the time of just making sales, to kind of make the art scene healthy.
Seeing art as a cultural product. Audrey Yeo has been with us, the president of the Art Galleries Association of Singapore and the owner of Yeo Workshop. Encourage all of you to get out to Gillman Barracks. Just walk around, through the different galleries, spend a Saturday or Sunday just having a look and seeing what's interesting. Audrey, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, really appreciate it.
To listen to more great interviews, download our podcasts at audio.sg. or download the audio app. That's AWEDIO, audio at the App Store and Google Play.